The money didn't just slow down, it stopped. Dead. Frozen solid. And when the cash stops moving for people who live off constant motion, you don't wait. You don't explain. You don't negotiate. You run. This is the moment everything snapped. The exact second Harry and Meghan realized America was no longer safe for them, not because of cameras or tabloids, but because paperwork doesn't lie, and the paperwork was screaming. What people aren't saying out loud yet is this.
For many of us, that she cut ties with the royal family, yet she keeps using this royal title as she sells jams.
This morning, Harry and Meghan stepping out together in London for the first time since announcing their very public split from the royal family.
Harry and Meghan, they're at it again. Another faux royal tour. Really? We've had quite...
When assets freeze, panic follows. And panic leaves fingerprints everywhere. Suddenly the whispers start. Clean up, wipe the records, erase trails. Because when accounts vanish overnight, you don't stick around to answer questions. You disappear before someone forces you to. And here's the part no glossy interview will ever admit. This wasn't gossip triggering the chaos. This wasn't tabloid stirring trouble. This was numbers. This was filings. This was the ears quietly stepping into the room and flipping on the lights. Americans know one thing instinctively. You don't play chicken with the ears. It doesn't care who your father is. It doesn't bow to titles. Trauma narratives don't soften spreadsheets. And royal connections mean absolutely nothing when forms don't line up. According to sources circling the situation, Archewell didn't get a friendly glance. It got attention, serious attention. The kind that comes after months of unanswered questions stacking higher and higher until someone official finally says, enough. Where's the money going? Why aren't filings available? Why do expenses look personal? When enough noise builds, someone listens. And when the Irish listens, it doesn't skim, it digs. Deep, painfully deep. Every expense, every payment. Every transaction that smells even slightly off gets dragged into the open. Staff salaries, travel, security, consultants, events, all of it placed under a microscope so sharp it cuts. And here's where the air gets thin. Money labeled charitable, allegedly looping right back toward the people running the charity. Let that sit for a second, because that's not a mistake. That's not sloppy bookkeeping. That's a problem.
Meghan treated as an HRH. That's the most realistic on the list where you can go, I can see these two happen.
This isn't about a misplaced receipt or a forgotten form. This is about serious amounts of money being categorized one way and allegedly living another life entirely. You can't spin that. You can't PR your way out of it. You can't cry your way past it. And once investigators don't like what they see, the hammer drops. Not slowly, not politely, all at once. Every account, every dollar, every pathway locked down, frozen. No access, no transfers, no quiet rearranging behind the scenes. The entire machine grinds to a halt overnight. And when your entire world runs on that machine, suddenly America doesn't feel very welcoming anymore. Here's what most people still don't understand. Archewell isn't just a charity, it's the backbone, the spine, the engine room of the Sussex operation. This isn't a side project, it's the hub through which everything flows. Salaries? Archewell. Lifestyle costs? Archewell.
Not promoting that charity. They're typically complaining about what's going on in their lives or what happened 4 years ago.
PR? Archewell. Security? Archewell. It's not just image. It's survival. And that's why missing paperwork isn't a small issue. As a tax-exempt charity, transparency isn't optional. Anyone can legally request the returns. People did exactly that. Proper channels. Correct forms. Formal requests. And nothing came back. Worse, the EARS itself hasn't published the returns. And that only happens when filings don't clear review, when numbers don't line up, when explanations don't satisfy. When a charity can't get its paperwork approved, that's not a hiccup. That's a flare shot into the sky. Scrutiny intensifies, pressure multiplies. And suddenly, everything connected to that organization becomes radioactive. Donors hesitate. Partners pull back. Questions multiply faster than answers can be manufactured. And when everything runs through one foundation, one failure infects the entire structure. Now layer this with another name quietly sliding into the conversation. Invictus. Massive donations, government funding, corporate checks, and a jaw-dropping figure hovering over everything, £26 million tied to Birmingham alone. While the city struggled, while services were cut, while veterans still begged for support. Where did it go? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The people Invictus claims to serve are still underfunded, still struggling. And that contradiction makes people dig. And once one foundation triggers alarms, others in the same orbit get examined. Patterns start forming, financial trails overlap, and institutions do what they always do when heat rises: they protect themselves. Nobody wants to be holding the bag when explanations are demanded.
Men on the ground together, but at the same time to feel the palpable longing for family and friends while deployed.
And that's when the freeze becomes catastrophic. Staff unpaid, security unfunded, PR teams stalled, lawyers unreachable. Everything that maintained the illusion, gone. And notice what didn't happen. There was no document dump, no clean accounting release, no confident factual defense. Because when receipts are clean, you show them. You don't pivot. You don't distract. You don't suddenly revive safety narratives and emergency exits. But when you can't touch the money anymore, when the foundation that props up your entire life is locked, you can't fight with paperwork, because paperwork is the problem. That's when panic starts talking. Security becomes urgent. Leaving becomes necessary. America becomes unsafe. The timing is too perfect to ignore. This isn't about paparazzi. This isn't about danger. This is about jurisdiction. About being somewhere else when the walls close in. Safety is just the shield, the excuse that makes running look noble instead of desperate. And suddenly, Britain starts looking good again. Not for healing, not for reconciliation, for familiarity, control, home turf. When pressure hits, you retreat to the one place you understand better than anywhere else. Not emotionally, strategically. And that's where the story is heading next. Because once the money stops, everything changes. Britain doesn't represent comfort, it represents leverage. Because when everything collapses at once, the money, the goodwill, the protection of distance, you don't look for peace, you look for advantage. You look for a place where you understand the rules better than the people questioning you. And Harry understands Britain in his bones. This isn't nostalgia. This isn't homesickness. This is muscle memory. Decades of knowing who matters, how things move, when doors quietly open and when they slam shut. In America, they were outsiders operating on borrowed credibility. In Britain, Harry knows the terrain, the unspoken hierarchies, the silences, the pauses that mean more than words. And when pressure spikes, familiarity becomes a weapon. Here's what nobody wants to say clearly. This isn't a bold new chapter. This is damage control. And the damage didn't happen overnight. It's been building quietly through patterns that finally caught up. Patterns of believing consequences would never land. Patterns of thinking status insulated everything. Patterns of pushing boundaries and watching nothing happen until something did. Because once money truly starts running out, not slowing, not tightening, but vanishing, reality becomes unavoidable. Deals don't close, loans don't materialize, promises evaporate, and suddenly personal funds get tapped just to keep the lights on. That's not success wobbling, that's collapse. Canada didn't hold. America started asking questions. The UK remains complicated and hostile. Every geography comes with friction now. Every institution touched ends up exhausted. The charm wears thin, sympathy dries up. And once public belief erodes, no amount of narrative can replace it. That's the danger of building everything on image. Image works until it doesn't. It opens doors, but it doesn't keep them open. Staff don't accept trauma stories as payment. Banks don't fund feelings. Governments don't approve budgets based on documentaries. Eventually, math shows up. And math is ruthless. Expenses exceeded income. Projects underperformed. Revenue never replaced expectation. The brand peaked before it stabilized. And once momentum stalls, everything connected to it starts sliding at the same time. That's why every move now feels reactive. Every statement sounds defensive. Every pivot screams urgency instead of vision. The runway is gone. The safety net never existed. And this is where power really fades, not in one explosion, but through erosion, through missing filings, through locked accounts, through sudden relocations wrapped in concern instead of truth, through the widening gap between what's said publicly and what's happening privately. If even half of what's being whispered is accurate, this isn't a celebrity scandal. This is a countdown, because financial scrutiny doesn't get bored. It doesn't move on. It waits. And once money access disappears, silence becomes loud. Louder than any interview, louder than any statement, louder than any carefully produced narrative. Because documentation doesn't care about emotion. Tax filings don't bend. Spreadsheets don't sympathize. Numbers don't explain themselves, they expose. That's why the frozen accounts matter more than any headline. That's why missing returns are the story. That's why Invictus questions aren't noise, they're echoes. Everything connects. The security panic, the sudden urgency, the relocation talk, the refusal to show receipts. These aren't isolated moments, they're symptoms. And when institutions feel heat, loyalty vanishes. Support becomes distance. Protection turns inward. Nobody risks themselves to shield someone else's mess. This is when allies disappear quietly. This is when calls go unanswered. This is when once friendly organizations suddenly need time and clarity and distance. Because when the trail is being followed, everyone steps back. The most revealing part of all of this isn't what's being said, it's what isn't. There's no confident denial, no transparent release, no full accounting, just movement, urgency, exit strategies dressed as necessity. And that tells you everything. Because when the truth is clean, you stand still. When it's not, you move fast. Security becomes the excuse no one dares challenge. Family protection becomes the shield. And relocation becomes survival, not choice. But the clock doesn't stop because you crossed a border. Documentation doesn't disappear because you changed addresses. Financial questions don't reset because you invoke fear. The numbers are still there, waiting. This is what happens when belief in invincibility meets systems that don't care who you are. When reputation collides with regulation, when storytelling runs out of room. And the most dangerous part? This isn't the end. This is the quiet before forced answers, before consequences that don't announce themselves politely. Because once money stops, time speeds up. And whatever comes next won't be controlled by interviews, documentaries, or carefully framed narratives. It'll be controlled by records. And records always win.